This is a tutorial on how to make a cupcake topper using My Memory Suite digital scrapbooking software. The very first page that's going to open when you open My Memory Suite is to design your new album. And you always want to select Design Your Own when doing a cupcake topper. And then of course you have to name your project, and we're just going to call it Tutorial for today. There are 3 different sizing options in My Memory Suite. Portrait and landscape are great for 8.5 by 11 projects, but the square is most useful for digital scrapbooking and of course making our cupcake topper. It's just going to save us some time with cropping later. You also want to work with a blank page so that you can start fresh. Now, most cupcake toppers you're going to find are going to be circles, so we want to make sure that we get a shape to help guide us in the right direction. Here's our circle. This circle is going to be our design area where we're going to use our text and clip art to design our topper. And you'll notice all the space that's going to be around our circle is really just used as background paper. When you use a standard punch, you are going to have some area that's outside the topper just to give you a nice little border. Some people like to keep this all white because it saves ink and it creates a nice clean line. Others like to get more creative and use a colored background, which is what I'm going to do for this tutorial. So let's get our cupcake topper sized properly. In order to save time by not having to crop this square later, I like to size my circle to 415. You can get to these object settings by just double clicking in the center of that circle once you get the shape up. We'll get it to 415. And then you just want to roughly shoot for the center of the page. You can kind of eyeball it, or you can come up here to the toolbar and use this grid. And this will just guide you in sort of reaching the center as best you can. It doesn't need to be perfect because again, you are going to be punching this out and all of the background is just used as your border. So we can turn off our grid. So now we've got our nice design space. The very first decision you need to make when creating a topper is to decide if you want it to be just text or if you want to use some clip art and embellishments to spice it up. Today we are going to make an Easter topper and I want to use text and a piece of clip art. So the very first thing I want to do, especially since I want to make the rest of my text and backgrounds match my clip art, is to pull that up. So you want to come over here to the right and choose embellishments. And then click add. My Memory Suite comes with a ton of great embellishments that are already built into the software. There's buttons, flourishes, flowers, knots, and bows, all of which are color coordinated with all of the different background papers they use. It's a really easy, simple way to throw together a topper or a scrapbooking page. But because I'm going to do something with a holiday, I wanted a more specific piece of clip art. So I actually purchased mine online from a website called Peppermint Creative, and I downloaded it to my computer. When you download your own clip art and digital scrapbooking papers, you're going to need to access your computer's files. So if you click Browse Other, I've got a folder specifically on my computer for digital scrapbooking. This is where I save all of my clip arts and papers for easy access. Today, I'm going to be using Peppermint Creative's Cutesy Doodle Doo. And these are a bunch of the clip arts that I purchased from their website that I can use as many times as I want for personal use. They're all PNG files, which means that they overlap, unlike JPEGs, which sometimes aren't able to do that. So when I am in my digital clip art, I want to choose the piece that I'm going to be using for today. Since we are going to be doing a Happy Easter tag, I want to replace the O with a cute little Easter egg. So I'm going to choose my Easter egg clip art. And when that little timer runs out, you can click close, and you'll see that my clip art's in the center of the page. Now, moving this around, we want to use it as part of our text. So the second step after uploading your clip art is to figure out what you want your topper to say. As I said, we are going to say Happy Easter. So I'm going to add my first text block. Every time you click to add text, the same size box appears and you can format it and adjust it to anything that you need. I like to separate the words in all of my phrases because they're easier to move around the page once we create them. So I want to write the word happy. And the first thing I do is come over here to my editing and I want to center a line. Then I want to choose my font. This is our default font and default size. So every time that text box comes up, this is what it's going to look like. But I want to go in and pick a different font. your computer will have plenty of fonts already installed, and you can also purchase them online just like you do with scrapbook papers and clip arts. My favorite site is Lettering Delights, and there is one particular font that I use all the time, and it's called Delightful. So that's what we're going to use today. And when I'm doing just a 2-word cupcake topper like Happy Birthday or Happy Easter, I typically like to go all the way up to size 96 font. You can adjust this to your needs, but that typically seems to be the one that works the most. So I'm going to write H, and we want a space to make room for the egg, and do a PPY. The red around the box means that the space that I've created is just too small for my font. So if you just enlarge it, it'll pop back up. Okay, so then we want to take our happy and center it on the page. Now, if you see here, I want to click on my egg to move it to its spot, but because we are working in a digital scrapbooking software, everything is layered on top of each other. So I cannot get to that egg because it is under my text block. So an easy fix for this is you want to get familiar with this little tool up here, and it is Change Object Layer. You want to click it, and I want my letters just to be sent backward behind one layer. And see, my little egg pops forward. If there were 2 to 3 layers, you could select send to backward as many times until that piece pops up. Or if you needed to get to the back, all the way to the back, you can choose send to back, send to front. So, like I said, this is going to be a very useful tool for you in switching around layers. So we've got our egg up front now. So we're just going to move this little guy into place. And he's a little big, so we're just going to size him down. And perfect. So we have our happy. Now we want to add our Easter. So we'll go back to text. You'll see that the standard text box comes up, same as it was. We're just going to estimate the size of how big we think Easter is going to be. We want to center a line again. Choose our font. So we'll get back down to Delightful. Back to 96. And then we want to type Easter. As you can see, everything's layered, so we're just going to pull our Easter down and get that into place. You want to make it centered so you can eyeball it the best you want or use your little handy graph tool to get you where you need to be. So now that our text is done, we want to start trying to customize the rest of the elements of the topper. And what I first like to do is actually change the color of my font. I'm not so happy with the black with my Easter egg. So to change the font of your text, you actually want to highlight it. And it's just another option over here in the formatting palette. So to change the color, you can choose change. And you can choose from palettes, from swatches, but I really like this handy feature called Picker. And what's nice about this is if you want the text to coordinate with your clip art, you can actually run this over any of the colors to match. I really like this turquoise, so I am going to select that. You'll see a sample and click OK. And our letters have been changed. Now, instead of trying to find that same spot of color match for our next word, you can actually highlight this again, come over here to change. You'll see our sample text, and you want to hit Add to Favorites, because when we go to our next word, we can simply highlight it, go to Change, hit Favorites, and here's our same color. Easy peasy. So we've got our text change. Now we want to determine a background for our paper. Like I said, some people like to keep it white, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I like to change it up with color. So you want to come over here to Background Papers. This is how you will change the background of your project. There are several different options in My Memory Suite. You can simply do color, which is what we're going to do today. In fact, I will do my picker option. I sort of like this light color that's in the egg, and I will click OK, and you'll see that my background has changed. There's also the option of selecting papers that are already uploaded here in the My Memory Suite software. There's dots, decorative, checks, tons to choose from, all of which are color coordinating with the embellishments. Or you can choose custom, where you go back into your own computer files, select some papers, and then you would select the paper that you want once they upload. See these different paper options, and then you'd click OK. So again, you can customize your background to anything you want. A lot of times clip arts can be purchased with coordinating background papers, and that's helpful too. So we have our backdrop, and it's clear that this gray is not really looking the best for our topper. But now that we have a background to contrast it, let's change that. So the first thing you want to do is highlight your circle again. And you can format lots of things on it. So the first thing we want to do is change background color. 9 times out of 10, you're going to want a nice crisp white as your background. That just enhances your clip art and your text and makes everything really pop against it. See how nice that looks already? So now that we have our text, our clip art, and our background, we want to try to make our circle stand out a little bit. So the easiest way to do that is to choose this matte option. You can make your matte as thin or as thick as you want. I typically like to stay around 6 or 8 because it's just enough to highlight our topper without taking away from the text in the picture. And again, you can color change any way you want. I'm going to use picker again. And sometimes I like matching my text to my border. It's just a nice way to balance everything out. And there you go. If this is still a little too boring for you, another great border option is the dot border. It took me a really long time to figure out how exactly to do this, but it's actually a text option. So if you go back to text, we're going to add another text box. This time we need to stretch our text box to be just outside of the circle on all 4 sides. And again, you can just eyeball this. It doesn't need to be perfect because you'll be able to tweak it once we get the dots in. So just expand your text box to be outside the circle. And then luckily our default text is perfect for making the dot border. You really just need to select any bold, simple text. You want to take it all the way up to a 68 in size. And then all you do is just hit the period over and over again. And you want to go just shy of about 3 lines. That is usually how many it takes. And of course, you can customize the color of this just like everything else. So we want to change. I'm going to use picker, and I'm going to use this great lime green color. Okay, so now we've got our dots, the color that we want, the size that we want. So we want to go over here to shape. You can shape your text several different ways, but I like to do outside circle. And that brings us here. You'll see that my box is highlighted in red because there's too much inside of it for the size. So we're going to try to pull and shape our circles to be evenly around our circle. Again, just kind of eyeing it up. And you can see that now that we've stretched it out, the red is no longer there, but we are about 1 dot short. So we're going to go back, add in 1 dot, shape our text again, pull this side out just a tad, and there we go. Perfect. So we have our dot border, our background, and our text. This is actually a completed topper as it is, so we want to make sure that before we do anything else that we save this. Made the mistake lots of times of not saving, so we go up to save. All right, and we are all set. Once we have a cupcake topper done, we can complete our project, or if you're like me, I sometimes like to make varying colors or styles when I'm making toppers just to kind of switch things up. And a really easy way to do another topper that's very similar to this is to go up to an option at the top called Insert. And you will see an option called Insert Duplicate Page. What this does, if you look down here, it just creates another page in your quote album that is the exact as the first page. So say I want to change this egg. We need to bring it forward again. So sometimes it's easiest just to move our little dots out of the way. I want to change my Easter egg out. So I'm going to get rid of them. And I'm going to go back in my embellishments. I'm going to browse other. I'm going to get, oh, I'm already at my cutesy doodle do. I want to do a pink egg. So I'm going to choose pink. I'm going to close. And I'm going to substitute that pink egg in this area. But now I've got to change all my other colors. And it's going to be super easy. I'm going to highlight my text again. I'm going to change it. Use my picker. And I'd like this dark pink. Perfect. And again, we want to highlight it so we can add it to our favorites. Again, we want to add it to favorites. Okay, now let's get our Easter. And we are going to change favorites pink. Our text is done. Now we're going to quickly change our background. Background papers, again, color. Let's do picker. Let's match our light pink. We're going to go back to our circle. Let's change our matte. Remember, we matched our text the last time, so we want to do picker again. Match our text. And voila! Now we still just have our circles. This is the last to fit in. We'll get it all spaced. Double click on it so that you can highlight it. We're going to change. Pick her one last time, and I think that the only color that we haven't used is maybe this, well, for the sake of this, we'll just use this pretty gray. We'll say OK. Shape your text, outside circle, and boom, you have a coordinating topper. So we have our first topper and our second. And the thing that's nice about using the duplicate page is that everything is already sized for us, so we can do it 3 times as fast. Now that I'm done with both of my toppers, again, I want to make sure that I save. So I'm going to come up here and hit save again. And then I need to get these files off of my computer into JPEG format so that I can do my printing. So what I want to do is click Share Album. It's at the bottom of our list, and Export to JPEG. We're going to walk through the export wizard. So we click Next, and I want to download both of my toppers. If you only want to do one, you can do one. In this case, I want to do 2, so I'll hit Next. You always want to choose large for the best size quality. You always want to go to 100% for image quality. And then I want to save this to my desktop. So I'm going to click Next. And then you will see the title of this project is Tutorial. It's already there. And we want to click Finish. It usually takes just a few seconds for it to, yep, and now it is successfully written to our computer. So we click OK. You'll see my file that's right here that actually has the toppers ready to go. So now that those are a JPEG file on my computer, I can take them and print them in any way that I see fit. And this will, of course, save to my memory suite in case I ever want to go back in and change it. So thanks so much for walking through this tutorial. I really hope it helped you. And if you're curious on how to make an 8.5 by 11 sheet of 12 printable toppers using the topper that you just created, be sure to watch part 2 of my tutorial. Thanks!